What would you do if the very thing you loved most became the source of your greatest pain? In the heart of New York City, where dreams collide with harsh realities, Maya Johnson stood behind the glass display of Tiffany & Co., her heart aching yet resilient. At 29, she was not just a salesperson. She was the embodiment of her Haitian immigrant parents' sacrifices, their dreams woven into the intricate designs of the jewelry she adored. Each ring and bracelet whispered tales of hope, yet Maya felt the weight of a world that often dismissed her worth. With a degree in jewelry design, she longed to create pieces that spoke to the soul. Yet the reality of her job often felt like a gilded cage, trapping her in a cycle of servitude to the whims of the privileged. On that fateful day, the opulence of Fifth Avenue, with its gleaming storefronts and bustling crowds, turned into an arena of confrontation when Richard Thompson entered her life. A billionaire tech mogul, he carried with him an air of entitlement that felt suffocating. Known for his blatant racism and arrogance, he was the embodiment of the systemic barriers Maya faced daily. When he spat at her, an act so dehumanizing it sent shockwaves through her very core, she didn't retaliate with anger. Instead, amidst the chaos, she managed a serene smile, jotting down his name in her notebook as if to reclaim her power. "Mr. Thompson," she said, her voice steady, "you've just given me exactly what I needed." What did she mean by that? What plan brewed beneath her calm exterior? As Richard fled, his face pale with shock, the air around Maya thickened with potential. The conflict was no longer just between a salesperson and a rude customer. It was a battle against a system that sought to belittle her. Maya's journey would not only challenge the prejudices of those like Richard, but also force her to confront her own vulnerabilities and dreams. In a city that promised opportunity, yet often delivered heartbreak, she stood at the precipice of a significant transformation, ready to rise from the ashes of her own struggles and fight for her place in a world that desperately needed her voice. As Maya stood behind the glass display, the weight of Richard's disdain hung heavy in the air, shaping her resolve into something sharper. The confrontation had been a crucible, exposing her vulnerabilities while igniting a fire within her. Yet as she returned to her routine, the challenges began to multiply. The store manager, Elaine, a woman who had clawed her way up from similar beginnings but had since adopted a hardened perspective, eyed Maya with skepticism. "You need to know your place, Maya," Elaine advised, her tone laced with an unsettling mixture of concern and condescension. "This is not a playground for your dreams." Maya sensed the subtle implication. Aspirations were a luxury for those who could afford them, not for someone like her. This moment marked the first rift in her journey, as she felt the sting of betrayal, not just from Richard, but from a woman who should have been an ally. In this world of glimmering jewels, the harsh reality of classism and internalized oppression loomed large. Compounding her struggles was her new neighbor, Jada, a fiery artist who had recently moved to the building. Jada was everything Maya admired: bold, unapologetically herself, and unafraid to challenge societal norms. Initially, their friendship blossomed, but Jada's brashness often clashed with Maya's more reserved nature. "You can't keep letting them step all over you," Jada urged one night over cheap wine, her frustration palpable. "You have a voice. Use it." Maya wanted to agree, yet the echoes of her parents' sacrifices held her back, whispering warnings of rebellion and the potential for failure. As days turned into weeks, Maya found herself in a paradox of emotions. She was fueled by a desire for change, but each setback, like the disapproving remarks from Elaine or the indifference of wealthy customers, brought her crashing back down. The emotional toll began to warp her perception of self-worth. Was she truly capable of creating a narrative where her voice mattered? The confrontation with Richard had awakened something primal within her, yet Maya felt fragile. Each interaction became a test of resilience, and the growing tension between her dreams and her reality pushed her to the brink. The city that once filled her with hope now felt like a battleground. She had to navigate the treacherous waters of ambition, self-doubt, and the complexities of her relationships, the weight of expectation from her family, the judgment from her peers, and the harsh realities of a world that often overlooked her existence. As she grappled with these forces, the question loomed: how could she transform the pain inflicted by those like Richard into a catalyst for her dreams? It was a daunting challenge, but as she scribbled down her thoughts in her notebook, Maya felt a flicker of determination. The journey ahead would demand more than mere survival. It would require a confrontation with the very essence of who she was and who she aspired to be. As Maya immersed herself deeper into the world of the jewelry store, the pressure continued to mount. Richard's disdain was only the beginning. Whispers of her interactions with him had begun to circulate among her colleagues, fueling a growing animosity that felt suffocating. The once friendly banter at work turned into veiled comments and sidelong glances, each one a reminder of her precarious position. The sense of community she had hoped to foster dissipated, leaving her isolated and vulnerable. Elaine, noticing the shift, stoked the flames of doubt further. "I hear you've been spending time with Jada," she remarked one afternoon, her voice dripping with implication. "Your focus should be on your work, not on distractions. You have a reputation to uphold." Maya's heart sank. Was it even possible to rise above her station without being scrutinized? The weight of Elaine's words bore down on her, causing her to question her worth. Was she merely a stepping stone for others' ambitions, or could she carve her own path? Jada, with her free-spirited nature, seemed oblivious to the turmoil swirling around Maya, but as their friendship deepened, so did the friction between them. Jada pushed Maya to explore her creativity, to express herself boldly, but every suggestion felt like a chasm opening between their realities. "Why do you care so much about what they think?" Jada exclaimed one night. Frustration etched across her face. "You're more than this job. You have talent." Maya wanted to believe that, yet the fear of failure loomed larger than ever. The stakes felt monumental. A misstep could cost her everything. Amid the chaos, a sudden financial crisis struck the store. Sales plummeted, and Elaine, desperate to cut costs, began to lay off employees. The atmosphere shifted from one of camaraderie to survivalism. Maya's heart raced as she watched her colleagues, once allies, turn on one another in a bid to secure their own positions. Loyalty was sacrificed at the altar of fear, and trust eroded. The betrayal of her colleagues stung, but it also sparked a new determination. If she was to survive, she needed to find her voice. As the layoffs commenced, Maya faced her own imminent dismissal. The fear of losing her job pushed her to reevaluate everything: the sacrifices her parents had made, her dreams, and the very core of her identity. The emotional toll was intense. She spiraled into self-doubt, questioning whether her aspirations were just foolish fantasies. But in the depths of her despair, a flicker of resolve ignited. She began to jot down her thoughts again, the words flowing with newfound urgency. It was in this maelstrom of betrayal and uncertainty that Maya realized her voice held power. The challenge lay not only in asserting herself, but in reclaiming the narrative that had been shaped by others. She recognized that her journey was not just about surviving in a cutthroat world, but about transforming that very world through her authenticity. The turning point loomed on the horizon, a moment when she would have to confront not just her fears, but the expectations that had confined her. As she prepared to stand up to Elaine and Richard, Maya understood that her journey was about more than individual ambition. It was about solidarity, resilience, and the fight for a place where her voice could resonate. In the face of adversity, she began to embrace the strength she had long overlooked, ready to rise from the darkness into the light of possibility. As the weeks passed, the atmosphere within the jewelry store grew increasingly tense. Layoffs were imminent, and Maya felt the weight of every whispered conversation, every wary glance from her colleagues. Just when she thought her resolve could withstand the pressure, the unexpected happened. Jada, her closest friend, was called into Elaine's office. Her face pale as she stepped back into the main area, a pink slip clutched tightly in her hand. The shock radiated through the store like ripples on water, leaving Maya breathless. Jada, the one person who had encouraged her to embrace her creativity and pursue her dreams, was now a casualty of the very environment Maya had been trying to navigate. Maya's heart raced as she watched Jada's eyes well up with tears. The vibrant spirit that had once ignited Maya's own ambitions, dimming in an instant. It was a moment that shattered the illusion of safety, a stark reminder of the fragility of their positions. The reality of betrayal and survival enveloped Maya, enveloping her in a blanket of despair. She had been so focused on her own fears that she had neglected the impact of the toxic environment on those around her. In that moment, she was confronted with an overwhelming sense of urgency to act, to redefine not only her path, but the very landscape of the store itself. As Jada left, the room fell silent, the air thick with tension and unspoken words. Maya's pulse quickened, a mix of anger and sorrow swelling within her. She couldn't let this be the end of Jada's story, or her own. The realization hit her like a lightning bolt. The stakes were no longer just about her job. They were about standing up for those who lacked a voice amidst the chaos. Maya felt a surge of clarity wash over her, igniting a fire within that had been smoldering beneath the surface. She could no longer remain a passive participant in this toxic cycle of fear and betrayal. Determination coursed through her veins as she began to see new possibilities. This could be the moment she had been waiting for, a chance to rally her colleagues and confront the injustices that had plagued their workplace. Maya envisioned organizing a meeting, a gathering where everyone could voice their frustrations and fears openly, a space where solidarity could take root. The thought of uniting her colleagues against Elaine's oppressive tactics filled her with a newfound sense of purpose. No longer would she allow fear to dictate her choices. That evening, as she sat alone in her apartment, Maya began to draft a plan. She envisioned a movement within the store, a collective effort to reclaim their dignity and reshape their environment. Her fingers flew across the pages, fueled by the conviction that they deserved better. She would not only advocate for herself, but for everyone who had been silenced. In that moment, the fear of failure transformed into an unwavering belief in her own strength. The road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but Maya felt ready to face them. The confrontation with Elaine and Richard loomed on the horizon, a climax that promised to redefine everything. This was no longer just about her job. It was about creating a culture of support, a community where ambition could flourish without the shadow of betrayal. The echoes of Jada's departure served as a reminder that their fight was not just personal, it was a quest for justice and empowerment. With each passing moment, Maya's resolve solidified. She understood that her journey was just beginning, and the power of her voice could be the catalyst for change. The stakes had never been higher, but so too had the potential for liberation. As she prepared for the confrontation ahead, she felt an exhilarating sense of clarity and purpose, a commitment to transforming not just her life, but the lives of those around her. The day of the confrontation dawned, and the air crackled with anticipation. Maya gathered her colleagues in the back room of the jewelry store, where the atmosphere felt electric with anxiety and hope. Each face reflected the weight of uncertainty, but beneath that lay a flicker of determination, a shared resolve to reclaim their voices. As they took their seats, Maya felt the palpable energy of her friends, their silent support fortifying her spirit. This was it. They were standing on the precipice of change. With a deep breath, she began to speak, her words flowing with passion and clarity. "We can't let fear dictate our lives any longer," she declared, her voice steady despite the tremors of doubt lingering in her chest. We deserve to be heard, to work in an environment free from intimidation and betrayal. Jada's experience isn't an isolated incident, it's a reflection of what we've all been enduring. As she spoke, Maya noticed nods of agreement, a shared understanding blossoming among her colleagues. They were united by their struggles, each one bravely sharing their own stories of unfair treatment and unfulfilled potential. With every account, the collective resolve grew stronger and the bond between them deepened. In that moment, Maya realized that this was more than just a confrontation. It was a gathering of allies, a testament to the power of solidarity. When she felt the moment was right, Maya led the group toward Elaine's office. They marched together, a formidable force of resilience, their hearts pounding in unison. As they reached the door, Maya hesitated, the gravity of the moment crashing down on her. Would they be dismissed? Would they face retribution? But she pushed through, driven by the lessons she had learned. That true strength lies not in silence, but in speaking out together. Elaine was seated behind her desk, her expression shifting from surprise to indignation as she took in the sight of Maya and her colleagues standing united before her. "What is the meaning of this?" she snapped, her tone laced with contempt. But Maya held her ground, her heart racing with a mix of fear and adrenaline. "We're here to talk about the culture in this store," Maya replied, her voice firm. "We want to express our concerns about the layoffs, the toxic environment, and the way you've treated your employees. We deserve to be treated with respect, and we demand change." Elaine's demeanor hardened, but Maya pressed on, fueled by the camaraderie surrounding her. "This isn't just about us losing our jobs, it's about creating a workplace where everyone feels valued. We won't stand for this any longer." As Maya spoke, she noticed Jada's absence, a stark reminder of what was at stake. The thought of her friend losing hope ignited a fire within Maya, propelling her to confront Elaine with unwavering courage. She articulated their demands for transparency and respect, channeling the collective energy of her colleagues into a powerful declaration that resonated throughout the room. In that tense moment, an unexpected ally emerged. Richard, the store's assistant manager, stepped forward, his voice shaky yet resolute. "I've watched the impact of your management style, Elaine. I can't stand by any longer." His admission sent ripples of shock through the room, and Maya felt a swell of gratitude. The confrontation reached a boiling point. Each word exchanged a potential spark for radical change. As the tension hung heavy, Elaine's facade cracked, revealing a flicker of uncertainty. The tide had shifted, they had taken the power back. In the aftermath, the outcome wasn't immediately clear. They left Elaine's office with a mixture of triumph and trepidation, their futures still uncertain. But as Maya looked around at her colleagues, she saw the glimmer of hope reflected in their eyes. They had stood together, and that unity alone marked a victory. Maya felt an emotional release wash over her, a bittersweet recognition of the journey they had undertaken. This confrontation symbolized a definitive restart, not just for her, but for the entire team. They had faced their fears, learned from their experiences, and emerged transformed. The bonds of friendship had deepened, and the fight for justice had ignited a passion within them all. As they returned to the main floor, Maya embraced the uncertainty ahead. She had learned that courage is not the absence of fear, but the determination to act despite it. With her colleagues by her side, she felt empowered to navigate whatever challenges lay ahead, a fierce advocate for change in a world that desperately needed it. In the weeks following the confrontation, the atmosphere at the jewelry store began to shift dramatically. The employees, buoyed by their newfound solidarity, rallied around one another, sharing ideas and supporting each other in their roles. Maya noticed a sense of camaraderie that had been absent before, as if the very act of standing up for their rights had ignited a spark of hope and purpose. They initiated regular team meetings, fostering open communication and encouraging one another to voice their concerns. Richard became a pivotal figure in this transformation, advocating for change alongside Maya, and together they worked to create a more inclusive environment. Maya reflected on her journey, acknowledging the fear and uncertainty that had once held her back. She recognized how the sacrifices made, Jada's departure, the risk of confrontation, had laid the groundwork for a brighter future. What had once felt like an insurmountable challenge now seemed like a necessary step toward empowerment. The lessons learned were profound. Courage had replaced doubt, and she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The struggle for respect and dignity was not merely a personal victory, but a communal one, echoing the voices of those who had felt silenced for too long. As the weeks passed, the impact of their actions resonated beyond the store walls. Employees from other departments reached out, inspired by Maya's courage to confront the status quo. They began sharing their own experiences of workplace challenges, creating a ripple effect of awareness and advocacy within the company. Maya realized that their confrontation with Elaine had sparked a movement, igniting conversations about workplace culture that were long overdue. However, change didn't come without its trials. Elaine, feeling threatened by the newfound unity, attempted to undermine Maya and Richard's efforts, but Maya was prepared. With the support of her colleagues, she documented instances of retaliation and unprofessional behavior, rallying everyone to present a united front. Their evidence led to an internal investigation that ultimately brought Elaine's management practices to light, resulting in her removal from the company. In the aftermath, Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her. The victory was bittersweet. While they had achieved justice for themselves, it was a painful reminder of the costs incurred along the way. Yet as she looked around at her colleagues, now friends, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. They had learned the importance of standing together, of valuing their voices and experiences. Maya had transformed from a hesitant employee into a confident advocate for change, and the journey had not only strengthened her resolve, but also cemented the bonds of friendship among her colleagues. They had turned betrayal into triumph, their collective spirit emerging stronger than before. As she prepared to leave the store that evening, Maya took a moment to reflect on the journey they had undertaken together. The fight for justice had not only reshaped their workplace, but had also redefined her understanding of success, not in terms of wealth or position, but in the richness of community, support, and shared dreams. You saw how standing up for what's right can transform lives, even in situations as challenging as Maya's. Now, I want to hear from you. How did this journey touch your heart? Have you ever faced something similar? Leave your comment below, and together we will share stories that can inspire others. Oh, and if you liked this message and believe it can make a difference in someone's life, don't forget to like the video and share it with those who need to hear it today. Finally, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to continue following more stories like this. Your participation is what makes this space so special.